I'd like to start out this video by saying that I actually like Brett Cooper. I enjoy her coverage on a lot of different topics, but sometimes she just misses the mark really far and she has absolutely no idea what she is talking about. And today's episode is one of those videos. So I'm sure everyone who listens to Red Pill content has already heard about the Fresh and Fit controversy. If you haven't heard about that, don't worry, that's exactly what today's video is about. I made a video on this controversy back when it came out, so if you want to check that out, I'll leave it linked somewhere. But let's see what Brett Cooper has to say about this whole Fresh and Fit drama.
Welcome back to the comment section. I'm Brett Cooper. So I am sure y'all know about the red pill bro manosphere culture, whatever you want to call it. These are people online, mainly on Twitter and on their own podcasts, who claim that women are unredeemable.
So first of all, we're going to have to stop Brett right there. I watch a lot of red pill content and I have not ever seen a single content creator ever say that women are unredeemable. I've never heard them say that. They absolutely do say that unredeemable women are unredeemable, but that's kind of like, obviously that is true. The problem I think here is that Brett Cooper disagrees with them on what Brett thinks is an unredeemable woman and what the Red Pill movement thinks is an unredeemable woman. That's just my opinion on why Brett Cooper has that opinion about the Red Pill movement. So she's barely begun describing the Red Pill movement, and she's already mischaracterized the entire movement.
Marriage is a sham. There is no good reason for a man to get married in 2024.
Marriage is a sham. So far, nobody has been able to give me a good reason why I should get legally married in 2024. Lots of people seem to think men should get married, but nobody seems to have any reason why we should do it, because the way I see it, there is a laundry list of reasons why I shouldn't do it, because that's basically inviting the government to come into my personal life and tear apart my family at some point in the future. No, I will never be legally married for as long as I live. Never, ever, ever. My marriage is between me, my wife, and God. And nobody else is coming in there.
They give men terrible advice, superficial advice on how to be masculine and alpha.
Oh, I'm so glad Brett Cooper is so well read on red pill advice that she knows the difference between good and terrible red pill advice, because she's quite clearly stating that the entire red pill movement gives terrible advice, when red pill is not about giving men advice. It's really a movement about where men have just come together as a group and decided that we're going to talk and exchange notes on what we believe is the true nature of women. And, well, I personally never watched Fresh and Fit because I found a lot of their advice to be things that I mostly learned in high school. People who did not have the same experiences that I did in high school, I could absolutely see why their podcast would be beneficial for watching and learning that kind of stuff, because, how else would you learn it? Brett Cooper thinks she knows what is masculine and what is alpha. Like, she's speaking on all of these terms as if she is a man who has studied these topics intensively. And I'm just starting to get the feeling that this is just imposter syndrome. Brett Cooper has absolutely no idea what she is talking about, and this is just how she feels about it, and she's going to talk very loudly about it because she feels very strongly.
Newsflash, men. Most of that advice would give normal women the ick.
Ew, no, David.
Oh, how nice of you to give us a newsflash, Brett. Where would I be in my life without these wonderful newsflashes from Brett, so I know which way to direct my life? Do you see how she has the need to tell men what to do? You'll notice this feminist tactic that she's going to use throughout this video. Shame, insult, guilt, need to be right. Feminists love to shame, insult, guilt you into doing what they want, and they have a complex of needing to be right. Not only that, Brett Cooper seriously expects me to believe that I should be getting dating advice from a woman? Because women are famously known for being very decisive, never changing their minds, and they always know where they want to go eat for dinner. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. I just checked the calendar. It's not opposite day anymore. My bad. It's just ridiculous that Brett Cooper thinks she knows what dating advice works for men better than a literal podcast that specializes in dating advice for men. I'm sorry, Brett, how many people do you have calling into your show saying that the advice that you gave them saved their lives or made them a millionaire or helped them start all of these like companies and do all these great things? Fresh and Fit has that. They have hundreds, sometimes thousands of people trying to call into their show to tell them that they literally turned their life around by listening to that podcast. And not only that, how many women has Brett Cooper dated? How many women has Brett Cooper had sex with? Why would I take advice on how to get women into bed and how to date women from someone who has never once done those things in their entire life? She honestly thinks that she's never once done these things and she knows better than the guys who have a literal podcast teaching men how to do it. Just keep those feminist tactics in your mind when you watch this whole video. Shame, insult, guilt need to be right. Because women, for some reason, have this need to control what men say, think, and do. Not only that, like, do you know how many times I've had a girl tell me, like, not to do something, and then I did it anyways because I knew that she didn't want me to listen to her, and then she was elated by the fact that I didn't listen to her. And then also how many times I've had a girlfriend tell me to do something and then I followed her instructions to a T, and then she was mad at me because I should have known to not listen to her. Like, I'm sorry, but if you're a man, then if you're not a man, then you do not understand what I'm talking about. Women have never dealt with the types of people that most men have had to deal with in relationships. Literally every single girl I've ever dated expected me to be a mind reader. And when you break it down to them, the logic and the facts of what they are asking from you, and you make them realize how unrealistic that is, they'll acknowledge how unrealistic it is, and then they'll still expect you to do it anyways, because that's what a good boy does. Shame, insult, guilt need to be right. I'm going to keep saying that throughout this whole video because you guys need to remember that when you're out there dealing with women. If a woman does any of those things to you, be very, very careful with how you interact with her.
Now, anyway, one of the biggest podcasts in this space is called Fresh and Fit. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. It predates the Whatever podcast, I believe, but it has a similar format where a bunch of women will come on, they will talk to and get critiqued by the two hosts, whose names are Walter and Myron. I think Myron actually has a different name, but he goes by Myron. They also go by Fresh and Fit, respectively. The guy's got 3 names. I don't get it. Whatever, do your thing. And all of this is done under the guise of male improvement. And considering the struggles that men are very obviously facing in today's culture, you would hope that these incredibly influential, popular alpha bros giving advice would be good role models, right? We would hope that. We would assume that. Wrong.
Yeah, I don't think anybody is defending Walter from being as stupid as he actually is. But the problem is that I don't think people are looking at this situation honestly, or at least they're not looking at the full picture of what's actually going on.
If your dad cheated on your mom, how would you feel?
I'd applaud him. I'd be like, yeah, you got your money up, man.
How do you think mom would feel?
You know what? She wouldn't leave. She's a real one. She would be like, damn, okay.
If it was continuous?
She wouldn't leave.
Do you think she'd be happy with the dynamics of that relationship, though?
She knows how it is.
Imagine being this man's mother and hearing him talk about you this way on his podcast. Oh, I'm going to applaud my dad if he cheats on my mom. Okay, great. We're starting off real strong here with this one. So glad that we are excusing cheating and breaking up families, aka the backbone of our culture.
Yeah, so first we need to get some context as to where this clip came from. And this clip came from basically like a dating show that they did on their channel. And they basically had these women come in and they went on a date basically with each other right there on the show. And so obviously these dudes are not being absolutely 100% dead serious right now. They're kind of joking around, like they're trying to be a little flirty. Like they're literally trying to show other men, this is how I pick up women, or this is how I date women. So this is really not a good sample for what most of their content is like. Most of their content is not like this at all. Secondly, both of the hosts on the Fresh and Fit show openly admit to being non-monogamous. That's right, they all say they are polyamorous. And they literally have this strategy that they call spinning plates. It's really, they didn't come up with it, but they basically made it very popular in the movement. And if you don't know what spinning plates means, it just means that you entertain multiple women at the same time because that increases the likelihood of you having as much sex as possible, especially with how flaky everybody is these days. If you even expect to have sex at all on the dating apps, you have to spin plates. Otherwise, you will probably spend more than a year on a dating app before you even get a date with a girl. And at the end of the clip, you could see Brett is starting to project her beliefs onto Fresh and Fit by saying that he's advocating for cheating, which is breaking up families, which is the backbone of our culture. However, if Brett had done any research on who these guys were, she very quickly would have realized that they openly admit to being polyamorous, and they also openly admit to dating multiple women at the same time. So I fail to see how these men are breaking apart families in any way at all, or cheating at all. Just because other people do not subscribe to your religious or relationship beliefs, Brett, does not mean that you can project those beliefs onto them anyways and still hold them to that standard. And that's what makes this clip so ridiculous, is the fact that Brett Cooper took this, she intentionally took this clip completely out of context just so that she could make this point that Fresh and Fit are advocating for breaking up families, when if you watch the full video of that this clip is taken from, then you'll realize that that clip came from the section of the video where Myron is explaining to her how he is polyamorous and how he does not believe in committing to only one woman, and so that the women in his life are going to have to be okay with there being multiple women who are dating him. And then she then is coming back and trying to come at him with, well, how would you feel if your dad cheated on your mom? Which is what the feminists always love to do, because they try and act like it's cheating when it's like, no, it's not. We don't subscribe to that idea. We don't believe in monogamy. So you can't project your values onto me and hold me to that standard. I refuse to live by that standard. I live by the polygamous standard. And while I'm sure we can all agree which one is more morally correct than the other, that's not the point here. These men are not on their podcast to try and show men morals and what is moral and what is not moral. That's not what their podcast is about. That is not what they're trying to do at all. They are simply there to show men how to get what they want from women. That's literally all that their podcast is about, is teaching men how to have game. That's it. It's that simple.
Somebody commented and said, first L, take brother. Loyalty is everything. And religion and brotherhood and faith and marriage. Okay, first L, buddy. You've not been paying attention if this is the first L from them you've ever heard. Someone else says, Myron presents the weak man's image of a strong man. Weak men can never speak for strong men. They lack the instinct for it. Amazing way to put it. And usually strong men are not sitting on podcasts talking about their masculinity.
Damn.
Doesn't usually work like that.
Oh, really, Brett? Oh, really? Because Brett Cooper knows what the pinnacle of true masculinity actually is. No. You men over there, you have no idea what true masculinity is, because Brett Cooper actually knows what true masculinity is. Oh, that's right. I forgot. I checked the calendar. It's not opposite day. My bad, guys. I like you, Brett. I really like you, but when you say really dumb things like this, it makes it really hard for me to like you. I'd just like to counteract those comments by the simple, factual, logical statement that strong men live life on their terms. Strong men do not live life on other people's terms. Weak men live life on other people's terms. Strong men do as they please. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with that, but if you don't agree with that, then you don't have to be with a strong man. You can go be with a weak man who does what you say.
And then just to cover all of our bases, here's one of their fans who says, Myron is not religious. Stop putting religious standards on him. Okay. So now being a loyal, committed husband and an upstanding father who respects his children's mother is apparently a religious standard. that you need to disavow. Thank you for saying the quiet part out loud. I am so glad that you are a terrible human being.
Yeah, if you just inverse the words of the meaning of the words of what she just said, it's actually true. However, she said the inverse of the truth, which means it's false. And I don't know if you've noticed this or not, Brett, but marriage is, well, before the government got involved in it, it was supposed to be a religious institution. It was a religious institution until not very long ago when the government started getting involved in marriage, and now it's both a legal and a religious institution. But the legal part is, well, more of a branch to the tree that is the religious part. So, yes, marriage, by nature, is a religious concept. Therefore, if you are ascribing religious concepts to people who do not believe in those religious concepts, then you, Brett Cooper, are saying the quiet part out loud. I don't see how this one slipped her mind of like saying marriage, the standards of marriage are not religious standards. Like how? I'm sorry, but I have never seen a marriage that wasn't in a church or some type of religious building. I'm sure they exist, but I've never seen one. And not only that, the whole concept of marriage comes from religion. It's literally preached about in the Bible, so it's just undeniable that it is a religious concept, especially when you consider how non-religious Americans are and how little marriage there is. I mean, it's almost like those two are kind of linked. With all these non-religious people, we end up in a non-married society. Wow, it's almost like marriage is part of religion.
Here's another clip.
The reason why it's so bad, guys, is that in 2023, we don't hold women accountable for their promiscuity anymore, right? So since society doesn't hold women accountable for their promiscuity, you have to do it through your actions. You have to hold them accountable by your behaviors. So you're not going to change women. The only thing that you could do is adapt to the situation and change your behavior and not commit to these women.
And that's such a black pill take.
Oh, sweetheart. Oh, you poor thing. Dear God, Brett, please do not look up what actual black pill is. Your poor little heart couldn't take it. You will faint. But that just goes to show how little Brett Cooper actually understands about this movement, is that she is accidentally confusing multiple different movements as one and the same. The black pill movement is not the same as the red pill movement. It's not the same as the white pill movement. These are all completely different groups that just fall under the same general category of men's self-improvement style content. And not only that, she calls it black pill, that men are saying that because women are not held accountable for their body count, that we should just basically, through our actions, hold women accountable, which just basically means that, like, if a girl has too high of a body count, we just shouldn't even, like, deal with her or talk to her. That's what Brett Cooper is calling black pill. Because in my opinion, that's just called standards. You see this shame, insult, guilt need to be right? Because nobody bats an eye when women say, oh, he needs to be 6 foot. Oh, he needs to make 6 figures. Oh, he's got to be 6 inches. Oh, he's got to have a 6-pack. Nobody bats an eye when women go off on their literal laundry list of what they need in a man. But as soon as a man even has a standard, for example, saying, I don't want a whore, a literal promiscuous whore who's going around sleeping with literally everyone, all of a sudden, that's black pill. No, Brett. No, you're wrong. Men are allowed to have standards, just like women are allowed to have standards. If a man does not want to be with a woman who has had too many people inside of her, then that's absolutely his right. And the irony about this point is it just proves how ignorant Brett Cooper is on this topic, and how she has done absolutely zero research to understand this movement. Because there is actually very solid and well-founded statistical data that proves why men should do this. And the reason is because a woman who has had sex with 5 or more men has an 80% chance of divorcing you in 10 years. Because when women have sex with too many people, it literally burns out the neurons in their brain or something, and it ruins their ability to pair bond with someone. And if you cannot properly pair bond with someone, then it is very difficult for you to stay in a long-term committed relationship. And you can ask any man who has had enough women to be able to tell the difference just by talking to one, whether she's had a lot of men or very few men. And if you ask those men, do women with a higher body count have a higher probability of breaking up with you and leaving you during a relationship? And I guarantee you every single one of them will say yes, because this is not just a pattern that I have noticed in the women that I have dated. This is also a pattern my friends have noticed, and obviously thousands, if not millions of other men have noticed, hence why there are literal guys making podcasts about this stuff. Okay? Not only that, like, that's actually really good advice right there. He's literally telling guys that you cannot change things in the world that you have no control over. The only things that you can change are the things you have control over, which are your actions and your body. That's the only thing you can control in this life, is what you do. And he's literally telling men that you just shouldn't disregard other people's actions as if they have no bearing on reality. Because if you ask anyone who invests in stocks, every single one of them will tell you the best way to predict the future of a stock is to look at the past. Well, if you look at her past, and she's had 100 dudes in 10 years from basically 18 to 28, well, what the hell makes you think that she's going to stop anytime soon? Someone who's done that type of damage to themselves is not going to be able to stop doing that. And I already hear the simps and the feminists screaming, but men, but men. No, but men. Sex is not the same for women as it is for men. This is just a biological fact. Men are biologically designed to have sex with as many partners as physically possible. Women are biologically designed to have sex with one partner. And we know this because the more partners that a woman has sex with, the higher the probability that she will divorce her husband in 10 years. This is literally provable with statistical data and studies that have been done over the past 20 or 30 or even 50 years, because these studies go back quite a ways. This is very commonly accepted psychological data. This is not new. These guys are simply just making a podcast, making more men out there aware of this very well established psychological data and patterns that have been observed and documented in human beings.
Because obviously, if you guys watch the show, you know that I agree that promiscuity is running rampant. You know that I agree that both men and women should be better and this should be changed. But I do believe that women's behavior can be changed. It should be changed. But that is besides the point. Remember what he said about accountability. Here's another video.
Okay, at least she's honest enough to admit that women are kind of the problem here, because if we're going to be honest, women are absolutely completely in control of the dating market, because women, at the end of the day, are the ones who pick who gets to have sex with them. That's just how it is with our species, okay? But notice how she uncovers a harsh truth, but then just glosses over it and literally says that's beside the point, which it's just like even more ironic that the point that she's then trying to make is about accountability, when it's like, why, Brett, are you focusing on the accountability of one gender and not the other? You literally said the accountability of the female gender is, quote, not important. Meanwhile, you are trying to highlight the accountability of the male gender. And not only that, we can't blame men for hookup culture. Because like I mentioned earlier, women control the dating game. Because now most people meet on social media apps, like dating apps and stuff. And the dating app data and studies have been very clear over the past 10 years, and the data has not changed. It's only been confirmed again and again and again the more studies they do. And that is 80% of all women on dating apps choose the top 5 or the top 10% of men, and the other 90% of men get literally nothing. So if we are to actually dole out accountability to the individuals who are actually accountable for the actions that they have participated in this debaucherous society, then according to the statistical data that we have, the problem is 80% women and 20% men. So who should we really be focusing our messaging on here, Brett? Like, if we're really trying to affect change in the world, do you really think screaming even louder at the 20% of the problem that they need to change is going to fix it while ignoring the 80% of the problem? Which just makes her whole point of accountability just so rich, because it's like she's not making the point about accountability that she thinks that she's making. Because when you truly understand the statistical data and the reality behind the clips that she's showing and what's actually going on here, you realize that this is just feminist propaganda. Shame, insult, guilt need to be right.
Guys don't like it when girls say signs and crystals and all other shit. Is basically what she does is she takes accountability away from herself and she puts it on the stars and the moon. So when she does dumb shit, she's always able to say, oh, I'm a Scorpio.
So granted, I do agree with parts of both of these takes. I agree with this point about, pseudo-spirituality in the form of signs and crystals. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. But the point is, you guys might have noticed a through line in those last two clips. Women need to take accountability. Women are not taking accountability. This is wrong. We need to fix that. If they're not married, it's their fault.
I mean, I do agree with you, Brett. If they aren't married, it is their fault. Especially if they've hit the age of 30 and they're not married. I mean, I can absolutely understand why, like, a 20-year-old isn't married, but a 30-year-old woman? Something's wrong with her if she ain't married. Either she doesn't want to be married, or there is something seriously wrong with her, which is why no man has married her yet. But, I mean, I know Brett was being sarcastic there, but I'm not. It is their fault. Every single woman that's alive has the opportunity to get married with a man while they are in the prime years of their sexual marketplace value. And if they choose to not get married, they are choosing to not participate in monogamy. They are choosing polygamy. Well, then how is it not their fault then when they turn 30 and they realize that they want to find a good husband to wife them up, but they've been sleeping around with Chad and Tyrone in the club every Friday and Saturday night, and now no decent man wants to turn them into a wife? Somebody please explain to me how that is not their fault. Because the way I see it, it's just cause and effect. Actions, consequences. It's just that simple.
If they're too promiscuous, it is their fault.
I'm sorry, what did you just say there, Brett? If they're too promiscuous, it is their fault? And she's saying all this sarcastically, meaning she believes the opposite. So she's trying to say that if a woman is too promiscuous, it is not her fault? When I thought promiscuity was a choice made by every single person, because, especially women, because women start with high value and lose their value over time as they age. Men start with no value and have to earn their value over time. So if a woman decides to be, quote unquote, too promiscuous, how are the consequences of the decisions and actions that she made not her responsibility? You see how Brett's trying to make this argument of accountability, but it's totally backfiring on her without her even realizing it? That her entire perspective is inverted from the truth of reality. That yes, you are responsible for every single one of your decisions that you made. It doesn't matter how much you were influenced by whatever at the time. At the end of the day, when you die and you have to answer to God for your sins, God is not going to let you push the accountability of your sins off onto somebody else. No, that is not how the concept of sin works. And Brett, being a religious person, should know this.
If their man cheats on them, it's their fault.
Yeah, this is such a feminist perspective by Brett that and it's not really her fault. She doesn't know how much of a feminist she actually is. Most women have absolutely no idea that their default programming is feminism, that they just naturally fall into feminist thinking. The irony about it is feminist thinking is usually not correct because it's based on emotions, and emotions are not logical. And while emotions can sometimes be correct, they're not really a good indicator for whether something is true or false. Logic is actually a much better indicator of that. So to really understand this, we need to first break it down. And we all understand the sexual marketplace value of how men have none and have to create it over time by building wealth and success and all that. And women start with all their sexual marketplace value and lose it over time as they age and they lose their fertility. So, one of the things that women really do not understand about being a man is that women think men get sex easy. No. As a man, getting sex from a woman is one of the hardest things that I have ever accomplished. I honestly feel like I could go and climb Mount Everest, and that would be an easier task than bedding some of the women that I have had to bed. So, women just do not have any understanding of this concept. I'm sorry, if you are a woman, you can't understand. No matter how much us men try to explain it to you, you will never understand. You can only begin to understand, just like men can only begin to understand what it's like to be a woman. We'll never fully understand. So if a man cheats on his girlfriend or significant other, that means she either is A, not having sex with him, which is forcing him to get it from somewhere else, or B, she's making sex with her such a difficult task to accomplish that he actually found it easier to acquire it from someone else. These are the main two reasons why men cheat. So you got to look at this from the male's perspective, Brett, which is what this whole red pill movement is about, which is how we all know you have done absolutely no research into this topic at all. You just saw the Fresh and Fit thing going viral and you wanted to react to it, and you did no research into any of this. Because if a woman has pushed a man to the point where he is cheating on her in a relationship, then it can be no one else's fault but her own, with the exception of a very few slim circumstances, and that being the like 0.0001% of guys that are so physically attractive that they can sleep with whoever they want. And I'm sure that does happen to some people. But that is so few people that we need to really put this into perspective of what the majority of men and the majority of women are experiencing out here. And the majority of times a man cheats on a woman, it is because she made obtaining sex with her so difficult it was easier for him to obtain it from a different woman. And that is not easy for a man to do. That requires a lot of work, time, effort, and money/resources, okay? You will never even get a woman to notice that you exist. You are invisible to a woman unless you can achieve a high enough status in all of those things that you actually pique her interest and she actually notices you. Because I'm sure, as most men know, you are 100% invisible to women. 99% of men are absolutely invisible to women.
Our lives are our faults. But are all of these circumstances black and white? Absolutely not.
This is another feminist talking point of basically saying, trying to muddy the water, trying to act like things are more complicated than they actually are. Be very careful of the people who try and act like things are more complicated than they are, because the people that are doing that are usually the types of people that are trying to confuse you. And the reason they're trying to confuse you is because they do not have a logically sound argument. Because I don't know if you've ever heard the saying, if you can't beat them, confuse them. Because it's a very old debate tactic of, well, if I can't beat you in the debate, then I'm just going to say so much stuff that you're just going to be confused and then nobody's going to know who won. That's basically the concept of this tactic of it's not so black and white. Well, sorry to break it to you, Brett, but here's the reality/truth of the situation. Reality is governed by logic. Logic is a binary system. There is true and there is false. There is nothing in between, hence why it is called a binary system. True, false. So everything in reality can either be broken down to true or false. If you don't believe me, then just think about the computer or the phone or whatever electronic device you are watching this video on. Every single thing done on your phone is communicated in binary, in ones and zeros. This video is being streamed to your phones as ones and zeros. It is binary. Everything in reality can be broken down into binary, true or false. So Brett Cooper's not correct when she says it's not black and white, because it is black and white. It literally is black and white. It's true and false. That's all there is.
Can men be at fault in relationships and be promiscuous? Obviously they can be. They are every single day. But it seems like the Fresh and Fit guys don't totally agree with that. In fact, I wonder if they believe that men should take any responsibility whatsoever.
Yes, Brett, men can be at fault in relationships and can be promiscuous. However, let's look at the statistical realities of how common that actually is. When we study the statistical data, it actually turns out that women cheat more than men do after marriage. This is a very commonly accepted statistical fact. Now, while yes, men typically cheat more before marriage, but we need to really put this into perspective because now I know there isn't really any statistical data to back this up, and then this is basically just my personal testimony, but I'm sure a lot of other guys out there would agree with me. And I honestly feel like the problem with cheating is women because I only ever cheated on one girlfriend. However, every single one of my girlfriends has cheated on me. Every single one of them. Like, it was funny because I thought men were supposed to be the pigs out there sleeping around, but from what I can tell and from what all my friends can tell, it really seems like it's the women who are out there cheating on everybody. Now, hey, that's just my personal experience and my friend's personal experience, but go and ask some of the guys you know. I'd bet there'd be a few of them that would be like, yeah, I have been cheated on by a majority of my girlfriends, especially when the cheating wasn't mutual.
Especially after seeing that Walter, the other host of the show, allegedly got his girlfriend pregnant and then demanded that she get an abortion. Sounds like not taking accountability, doesn't it? Let's just listen to this phone call that is allegedly between him and his girlfriend.
I want the baby because I don't want to kill the baby. I don't want to kill nobody. I don't want to.
You're not. They just give you a pill and it's over.
No. I'm pregnant.
First of all, that is such a lie that is being pushed by both the medical industrial complex, by feminists, apparently by men who don't want to take responsibility for their actions, for their unprotected sex. It's just a pill. Just take it. It's not. Do you not understand the havoc that the abortion pill wreaks on a woman's body? The pain that it puts her through, both emotionally and physically. It is not something that should be taken lightly.
You see how she's again ascribing her religious ideals onto this guy by assuming that he follows the same ideas of a relationship as she does when if she did any research on this guy at all, she would realize very quickly he does not believe in the same things that you believe, Brett. He does not believe in traditional monogamy like you do. You cannot ascribe your religious beliefs onto other people and hold them to that standard, especially when they openly admit that they don't believe that. And she is a grown woman, Brett. She should know the risks of having sex with a man who literally has a show about how to bed women. This is literally what their show's about. Like, what made you think that she thought that this man would make a good father figure? Just notice this. Shame, insult, guilt need to be right. It's always the man's fault. None of the accountability is on the woman. All of the accountability is on the man, according to Brett. Meanwhile, she wants to rant and rave about accountability. She never wants to pass it out to any of the women, which is just asinine because it's like you have to admit that both parties are equally at fault here at the bare minimum. Now, we can argue about the details about, who's more at fault than the other, but as a baseline level of understanding, where we start from at the bare minimum, both parties have to start off equally at fault. Otherwise, you're just being biased because it obviously takes two to tango. You cannot make a baby with one person. So let's just get that out of the way. And then on top of that, we don't actually know if it's his baby or not. She's over here acting like this is his baby. Like this is the only man that she has been sleeping with. We don't know that. According to the girl who got pregnant, they had only been sleeping with each other for a month. 1 month. They were sleeping with each other and basically they've dated for that month. And then this whole pregnancy thing happened. So this might not even be his kid. She might have gotten pregnant with someone else before she started hooking up with him. And the reason I say that is because if you look at this woman's Instagram, she is a professional. She is a hooker. She is a prostitute. This woman engages in sex work. Okay? So, while I understand Brett Cooper wants to come in on her righteous high horse and speak from her ivory tower as if she knows everything about this situation, the more she talks about it, the more you realize she doesn't know a damn thing. She just has a very strong feeling about it, and she's going to talk about it because she feels that way. And lastly, why should he take accountability, Brett? Why should he take accountability for a child that may or may not be his? You see this shame, insult, guilt, need to be right? She's just shame, 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 shame. Bad father, bad father, bad father. When it's just like, what if it's not his kid, Brett? You expect this man to just act like this is his kid when this woman is literally a sex worker and there is no definitive proof as to whether, number one, she's actually pregnant, or number two, that it's actually his kid.
I want to keep the baby.
Okay. Well, like I said, I just don't want any kids.
Oh, you don't want any kids, bro? Then you shouldn't be having sex. Or you should have gotten a vasectomy if you don't want to have children. Those are your two options.
You're right, Brett. You're absolutely right. Men have two options. Three. Vasectomy, no sex, or condom. Those are the three options that men have. Those are the only three options that men have. Let's go through how many options women have if they don't want to have a baby. They can also do chastity, no sex. They can also make the man wear a condom. They can also get the tubes tied. Okay, so women automatically have just as many options as men have to prevent pregnancy. Oh, but wait, there's more. That's right, women can, track their ovulation. What else? There's also spermicide gels and creams that you can use. There's the Plan B pill. There's IUDs. There's the birth control thing that goes in your arm. I don't remember what that's called. You can take the normal birth control pill that you swallow. And I'm sure there's many, many more that I can't even... Oh, sorry, and abortion. That's right, I forgot abortion too. A woman can get an abortion with or without the consent of the father. And I'm sure there's more ways that a woman can prevent pregnancy that I can't even think of right now because there's so freaking many. So let's put this into perspective, Brett. Let's really put this into perspective, okay? This was a man who says he spins plates. He is non-monogamous. He claims to be polyamorous live on his podcast, on his show. He dates women on his show, on the internet. And this girl came and had sex with him. And because he called her girlfriend, she thought that that meant they were like a serious thing. Get real, bro. Come on. This girl knew what she was getting into. She is not as ignorant as you make her out to be, Brett. But notice this again. Shame, insult, guilt need to be right. Like, I agree, it takes two to tango, but still, it's like the woman had 10 times more options than 10 or 100 times more options than a man does to prevent pregnancy. And who does Brett blame for the pregnancy? The man. What could he have done? What could he have done? He could do condom, no condom. That's one choice, okay. No sex. And let's be honest, no real man is going to get a vasectomy unless he never wants children. So no men who want children will ever get a vasectomy. That's not a realistic option because they're not reversible. So really, a dude only has two options, and she had more than 10. So let's not try and act like the man is to blame here. And I'm not saying the woman is only to blame either. I'm saying they're both equally at fault. They're both stupid here.
Because having sex comes with the possibility of a pregnancy. If you are engaging in sex, you have to know that that is a possible outcome. You are a grown man. You should know that. You cannot sit on your podcast and preach about how terrible women are, about how they take no responsibility, and then tell your girlfriend that she needs to kill her unborn child because it's not convenient for you right now. Oh, you just don't want any children. No, that is you not taking any accountability. What you rag on about on your show 24/7.
You see how she's again ascribing her religious ideals onto this guy by assuming that he follows the same ideas of a relationship as she does when if she did any research on this guy at all, she would realize very quickly he does not believe in the same things that you believe, Brett. He does not believe in traditional monogamy like you do. You cannot ascribe your religious beliefs onto other people and hold them to that standard. especially when they openly admit that they don't believe that. And she is a grown woman, Brett. She should know the risks of having sex with a man who literally has a show about how to bed women. This is literally what their show's about. Like, what made you think that she thought that this man would make a good father figure? Just notice this: shame, insult, guilt need to be right. It's always the man's fault. None of the accountability is on the woman. All of the accountability is on the man, according to Brett. Meanwhile, she wants to rant and rave about accountability. She never wants to pass it out to any of the women, which is just asinine, because it's like, you have to admit that both parties are equally at fault here at the bare minimum. Now, we can argue about the details about, who's more at fault than the other, but as a baseline level of understanding, where we start from at the bare minimum, both parties have to start off equally at fault. Otherwise, you're just being biased, because it obviously takes two to tango. You cannot make a baby with one person. So let's just get that out of the way. And then on top of that, we don't actually know if it's his baby or not. She's over here acting like this is his baby. Like, this is the only man that she has been sleeping with. We don't know that. According to the girl who got pregnant, they had only been sleeping with each other for a month. 1 month. They were sleeping with each other, and basically they've dated for that month. And then this whole pregnancy thing happened. So this might not even be his kid. She might have gotten pregnant with someone else before she started hooking up with him. And the reason I say that is because if you look at this woman's Instagram, she is a professional. She is a hooker. She is a prostitute. This woman engages in sex work. Okay? So, while I understand Brett Cooper wants to come in on her righteous high horse and speak from her ivory tower as if she knows everything about this situation, the more she talks about it, the more you realize she doesn't know a damn thing. She just has a very strong feeling about it, and she's going to talk about it because she feels that way. And lastly, why should he take accountability, Brett? Why should he take accountability for a child that may or may not be his? You see this shame, insult, guilt need to be right? She's just shame, 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 shame. Bad father, bad father, bad father. When it's just like, what if it's not his kid, Brett? You expect this man to just act like this is his kid when this woman is literally a sex worker, and there is no definitive proof as to whether, number one, she's actually pregnant, or number two, that it's actually his kid.
Now, Walter's girlfriend, whose name is Daisy, obviously recorded that conversation. She posted it. She also posted screenshots of their texts online, and there are plenty of them. Many of them are very vulgar. I'm going to read one of them to you. This was on her story. Fresh, aka Walter, said, "You should have a kid with somebody who you are in love with in the same household. It won't be what you expect. Man up, I'm telling you now so that you know." She told him to man up. As she should have. "I don't expect anything anymore since we're not together. I got pregnant with you when I was in your house and when I was in love. You wanted to have the baby. If you didn't come me with your own pleasure. Be logical and be a man. I didn't get pregnant by myself. Oof, it is not fair for the baby. No, it's not. What are you saying we are not together and won't be? Why would that be good for a kid? So why did you inside of me? Also, things happen, and yes, feelings change, but bringing a kid into this world without both parents' love is cruel. We both thought you wouldn't get pregnant. You can't just think that you won't get pregnant. That is not how the world works."
Wow, Brett. It's like you don't even see how controlled by your feminist ideology that you actually are, because you don't even think to ask the question, why does he think that? Why does Walter think that she wouldn't get pregnant? Was it maybe that she said to him, "Oh, you don't have to worry, I'm on birth control"? Is that possibly why he thought that she wouldn't get pregnant? But no, Brett Cooper doesn't even think to ask the question. The thought doesn't even cross her mind. She's too busy trying to shame him into taking accountability for a child that may or may not exist, that may or may not be his. And not only that, you start to see this pattern here of how this woman is taking everything from their private life and just starting to blast this out onto the internet. Again, you've got to remember, shame, insult, guilt need to be right. That's what women do when they want to make a man do something that they want. They engage in reputation damage. Because even if this is Walter's kid, and this is all true, these are private conversations. She should not be out here shouting this stuff from the rooftops, literally posting it for all of the world to see. This, in my opinion, is an invasion of privacy. I don't think Walter consented to her sharing all of this. Because if we were to flip the script, if we were to swap the genders, and this was a man posting all this on the internet about a woman, all of a sudden, all of the women would realize how wrong it is to do this and how you shouldn't go around posting people's private lives all over the internet just to try and get some internet clout off of it. Because for all we know, that's all this could be. She may not even be pregnant. This could all just be faked. And for all we know, she could just be literally doing this as a social media stunt just to gain followers and views and likes. And all of the feminists are over here trying to shame, insult, guilt men into believing that this child is his child when there is no proof of that at all.
Now, a lot of people have been attacking Daisy for putting Fresh, aka Walter, on blast. They're calling her a grifter, a snake, that she's a gold digger just trying to get his money.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think's going on, because if you really study what went on in this situation, you really start to realize that this woman baby trapped Walter, okay? This is not just, oh, they were like dating and there's just accident and she just happened to get pregnant. No, this woman baby trapped him, okay? When you really start to study this situation and study the timeline of it, there is no real other explanation to how she got pregnant so quickly. Like, they had only been having sex for 1 month, 30 days, and she managed to get pregnant. She's only had one cycle and she managed to get pregnant. Like, do you know how hard that is to do? Like, yeah, it's possible, but like, you have to be trying to get pregnant that way. That's not really something that happens accidentally in like 30 days. Like, it can, but that is very rare. Especially if she was supposed to be on birth control, like she likely told Walter, which is likely the reason why he is saying to her, I thought you wouldn't get pregnant. Why else would he say that? I know this dude is dumb, but I really don't think he's that dumb. Like, come on, guys.
But we see the pregnancy tests in the text, like tests from doctors, not just a clear blue. Now, maybe she is insane. I don't know her.
The thought of her sanity finally crosses Brett's mind. Wow, that took... I lost count of how many minutes ago. That took a while, Brett. That took a long while. Way too long, in fact. Because let's be realistic here, okay? Those pregnancy tests absolutely can be faked. Very easily. Not hard at all. And the doctor pregnancy test, well, if you know Photoshop, then you know how easy it is to Photoshop documents and pretty much anything you want. Like, I would not count either of those as proof of anything at all. Especially since she's out here blasting this stuff all over the internet. That just makes me extra suspicious of like, well, why is she blasting this all over the internet for the world to see? This must have been intentional. She must have known that this was where she wanted to go with this from the start. That's probably why all of this is laid out in the way that it is.
Maybe it's all made up. Maybe she is just trying to get his money, but she also could be honest and be scared and desperate. So she's gone to the public to show them the real man off camera. That is a totally valid option.
Oh, goodness, Brett. You are so sweet and so innocent that you are ascribing your innocence to this woman. Brett, you don't understand what these women are like. You've never dealt with these types of women before, Brett. You don't know. You just have no concept. You were completely ignorant on this. This woman was not scared. This woman went into this with a literal plan to baby trap this man, and that's if she's actually pregnant. And yeah, it took you till now to finally think maybe she's making this up to try and get money from him. Because even if she is actually pregnant, and it actually is his child, they had only been having sex for a month. You don't think that she maybe hooked up with him intentionally to have a child with him so that she could get child support and alimony or whatever women can get from men once they have babies with them? Like, this predatory type female behavior is way more common than most people are even aware of. And the people who are aware of it, half of them don't even want to admit it because half of them are women. And women don't like to call out other women for their BS. You got to protect the sisterhood, you know? And yeah, I'm sorry, but being scared and desperate is no reason to go exposing private messages and private conversations to the whole public. If she was honestly, quote unquote, scared and desperate, then why doesn't she just get a lawyer and take him to court? It's that freaking easy. It's that freaking easy, Brett. She doesn't need to go posting this all over the internet. The fact that she is posting it all over the internet is kind of proof that she doesn't plan on taking him to court. Because anyone who knows anything about how court proceedings happen, if you're the one posting private information all over the internet like this, that looks really bad in court. So if her end goal was to go to court with this dude, this would be a terrible plan. Which is why I don't think she planned on going to court with him. I think she planned on using shame, insult, guilt, need to be right, feminist propaganda by posting this stuff all over the internet, that it would bring so much hate on him in his show that he would have to deal with her. At least that's just what I think her plan was when she went into this.
She also said in a live stream that she would do a DNA test whenever he wants to prove that this is actually his child.
Well, why hasn't she done the DNA test, Brett? Why? Why? If she's willing to do the DNA test, she says she's willing to do it, why hasn't she done it? Why hasn't she done it? It's been quite a while now. Last time I checked, DNA tests don't take that long to do. Like, I don't know exactly how long it takes a DNA test, but I bet you could get it done in a week. And if not a week, a month. Like, just because she's coming out and saying that she's willing to do the DNA test doesn't mean she's actually willing to do the DNA test. If she was, she would just do it and she wouldn't talk about it. But the fact that she's out here trying to give this image on social media, it just strikes me as fake. I'm sorry, but all of this just seems fake. There's something going on here underneath the surface the rest of us can't see because we're not directly involved in the situation. However, we can use our context clues in our brains to try and figure out what's going on, and it really looks like this chick is trying to baby trap this dude.
And she also posted Notes app screenshots detailing the timeline of their relationship, including when he allegedly told her he loved her, wanted to be exclusive with her, and then introduced her to his mom, said he would have a baby with her, which is why she went off of birth control and had unprotected sex with him.
Oh, so it comes out that she did come off birth control and had unprotected sex with him. That's a little fishy now that he was saying earlier in the text messages that he thought that she wouldn't get pregnant. And you don't even think, Brett, you don't even think to ask if maybe, just maybe, she had told him she was still on birth control when she knew she wasn't. But no. Walter needs to take accountability here. Right, Brett? Walter needs to take accountability when it really is starting to look like this woman lied to him and baby trapped him. What other explanation is there? Like, why would he be saying what he said? Why would she be blasting all this on the internet like this? Like, that's disgusting that she's out here literally outlining their entire relationship to the entire freaking internet. This is deplorable behavior. Obviously, we all think Walter is a giant moron for not seeing this coming from a mile away, especially with him being on the podcast that he is. He should have seen this woman, taken one look at her, known exactly what she was going to do. But just because Walter is too stupid to take his own advice from his own show and apply it to his own life, doesn't mean that he needs to now take accountability for this woman who could have quite possibly lied to him about being on birth control and baby trapped this man. And that's if she even is pregnant. We don't even know that yet. And that's even if it is his child. We also don't know that either.
And that, people, is the most ridiculous part of this entire story, in my opinion, because they are both at fault here. They apparently only met in November and without true commitment decided that it would be fine if they just had a baby together and had unprotected sex. And then soon after she learned that, oh, he just isn't a monogamous person. Like, girl, just run. Just be smart. Do not have unprotected sex with a man simply because he says, I love you once. That is the worst idea on the face of the earth. I'm sure you wanted to believe the best in him, but just do not trust. And to men, because this involves you as well, because it takes 2 people to make a baby, as this commenter said, it's a great lesson for young men. If you want to bang broads you have no intention of marrying, this is what you risk. Fresh's legal relational trouble is simply the fruit of his degen lifestyle. Completely.
Just ridiculous there, Brett. Just ridiculous. Like, Brett, this woman knew what she was doing. This woman knew exactly what she was doing before she ever got near this man. I bet you this woman practically stalked this man before she finally got to interacting with him. This girl is not as innocent as you think, Brett. It's very obvious Brett's never dealt with the types of women that the entire red pill movement is educating men on how to deal with. Because Brett is literally over here ascribing her own innocence to these women who are very not innocent. Like, this woman is a literal sex worker, and Brett is acting like this woman is just as innocent as her, and it's just so absurd.
Again, sex comes with risk. Be smart. It is that simple. You cannot cry about getting a girl pregnant and having to pay child support and man up when you did not use protection, and when you allegedly told her you loved her and would be happy to have a baby with her. That is not something that you can victimize yourself over. It is irresponsible behavior on both sides.
I mean, finally, yeah, I agree with you there, Brett. Yeah, it is irresponsible behavior on both sides. But at the end of the day, we got to look at who had more choices to avoid the pregnancy. If neither one of them wanted to be a father or mother, how many choices did each of them have? That's right, the man has 3 and the woman has more than 10. So who had more choice to avoid pregnancy, the man or the woman? Well, obviously it's the woman. Now, I'm not saying it's the woman's fault for getting pregnant, but what I am saying is she knew exactly what she was getting herself into. She was not bamboozled. She was not ignorant. She was not lied to. This girl knew exactly what she was doing. However, what would be more interesting to know is how much she lied to Walter, because I'm sure we would all like to know Walter's side of the story on this, but he's not going onto social media and talking about this because obviously he's going to take this to court, because, you know, anyone who's going to court knows you don't post stuff on the internet before you go to court about it.
Now, as all of this has come crashing down, Fresh and Fit have been flailing. Walter has his lawyer involved and is basically saying no comment repeatedly, which is the best and literally only thing he can do right now, considering all the evidence. And then, this was funny. The co-host, Myron, aka Fit, had this little meltdown on his show about the whole situation.
You motherfuckers weren't there when I got the false accusation against me. You motherfuckers weren't there when this bitch lied and said that I got her pregnant when I fucking did it. And then you dumbasses, 3 years later, believe some bitch that makes the same allegations again.
I would totally recommend taking advice from these men. They seem very stable.
Oh yes, Brett, because you are, as we've already established, the expert on red pill content. Brett Cooper knows all things red pill. So, and not only that, Brett Cooper is also the expert on what true masculinity is. You are not a real man. You are not a truly masculine man unless you do as Brett Cooper says. Shame, insult, guilt need to be right. Now, it might have been kind of hard to understand Myron right there, but you got to look at this from their perspective, all right? Brett Cooper even admitted that this chick could be crazy, and I believe this chick likely is crazy. This is not the first time this has happened to them. As Myron was saying, this happened to them earlier, except this chick tried to baby trap Myron, and it wasn't even his baby. And he had to go to court over it, and it was this whole big deal, and it wasn't even his kid. And now they're doing it to his friend. Well, it's a different chick, and they're doing it to his friend. Of course he's going to be upset about it. Who wouldn't be? And the reason he's probably so upset is because this woman is literally out here exposing all of this private messaging conversations, literally dragging this man's name through the mud, ruining his reputation. And that's why he's having such an emotional reaction to this, is because it literally happened to him before, and now he's watching it happen to his friend, except it's happening to his friend even worse than it happened to him, because at least when it happened to Myron, the girl didn't go posting all of their private messages all over the internet. Like, who wouldn't get emotionally upset about that happening to their own friend? And then she tries to act like, oh, because he's having an emotional reaction to something that would have elicit an emotional reaction from almost any normal person that, oh, he's now emotionally unstable. Like, this is just pure feminist propaganda right here, Brett Cooper. And I like you, Brett. I don't believe that Brett Cooper is a feminist. However, I believe that she and many other people in society believe certain feminist ideals that go back thousands of years. Feminism is not new. Feminism is as old as time itself. Feminism has been around since women have been around. And not only that, guys, you remember how many times girls in your life told you, oh, just why can't guys just be more emotional? And then this is exactly why men don't open up and be emotional around women. Because every single time a man shows his emotions to a woman, what does that woman do? She turns around and uses those emotions against him. Every single time. Every single girlfriend that I've had has done that to me. Every single one. And Brett Cooper's doing it right here with Myron. She's taking his emotions and using it as a cudgel to try and say, see, he's emotionally unstable. You shouldn't listen to him because he doesn't have his emotions in check. And then women go around wondering why men don't show their emotions to them. Just ridiculous.
Very level-headed. I would absolutely love it if my husband was watching them and getting masculinity advice from them. That is fantastic.
There we go again with Brett Cooper having to control men and like what? Why should you be in control of what your husband is watching and what he is wanting to learn on quote-unquote masculine content, Brett? Why is that any of your business? Like, I get it that that's your husband and you're his wife, but what makes you think you get to control what content he can and cannot watch? This is very controlling of you, Brett, and I'm very disappointed.
Are you idiotic? What is this? This is a ridiculous display of emotional instability. And a lot of people were commenting and they were happy that Myron was sticking by Walter and defending him, which shows that he's just the best friend, men sticking together, whatever. All I see is a man excusing his friend's terrible, bad, disgraceful, hypocritical behavior. And on top of that, they're encouraging their audience to go trash this young woman, Daisy. Their fans mass reported her Instagram accounts, got them taken down. Some people on Twitter think that they are trying to cause her enough stress to force her to miscarry the baby, which I don't know if that's true, but that is a sickening, sickening thought.
Yeah, and here we go again with Brett Cooper just spreading literal rumors that she even admits are rumors. But you see how she's trying to paint this narrative of like, he's emotionally unstable. He's not a good character. Men shouldn't listen to him. He's bad. And not only that, she's acting like Fresh and Fit went and directed their fans to go do that. They never said that they're told their fans to do that. They never said to do that. They're not advocating for their fans to report her account. You cannot hold people accountable for what other people that they are not in control of did. Just like you, Brett, are not responsible for what your fans do. It's just ridiculous, this narrative that she's trying to paint here, and how untrue it is when you actually understand what's going on.
And still, people are defending them. Sneeko tweeted, "It's like all the shit you want, but Fresh and Fit has single-handedly saved more Western men's lives than any other podcast ever." Like, dude, be so serious. Like, for once, that is so far from factually true. Try Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, Huberman, if you want to talk about medical advice. Like, maybe they've had some good lines, some takes that, people could agree with, but no good man should be idolizing those guys.
And right here just highlights Brett Cooper's absolute, utter, complete, and total ignorance on this entire red pill movement. She calls Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson red pill. No, sweetheart. Those are not red pill content creators. None of the content creators you mentioned, Brett, are red pill content creators. Which just proves that you actually have absolutely no idea what you're talking about when you talk about red pill content. You have no clue. Like, for goodness sake, you confuse red pill with black pill. That's how ignorant you are on this topic. And Sneeko is 100% right. Fresh and Fit is the biggest red pill content podcast on the internet right now. And they have helped thousands, if not millions, of men. And as much as I ragged on Walter in the first video I made, they have a massive positive benefit in the community. There are so many men that they have helped they've literally called into the show and said, I became a millionaire because I followed your advice. I listened to your show, I followed your advice, and now I'm calling in to let you guys know, hey, I'm successful now because of the advice you gave me. They have hours and hours and hours of recordings of people calling in their show just like that, saying those same things. So no, Brett. No, you're completely wrong with your characterization of what red pill content actually is. Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan are not giving advice on dating for men. That is not what they do. They maybe give a little tidbit here and there every now and then, but they're not what could even be closely considered to as adjacent to red pill. They fall under the same conservative category, but they are not red pill. Red pill is just men's dating advice. That's all it is. And again, with her shame, insult, guilt, need to be right, and control. No good man should be idolizing them. Well, in my opinion, no good person should idolize another person. You shouldn't idolize people or things. It literally says so in the Bible. Don't worship false idols. But she's trying to take that line of argument to use it to paint her narrative as if these guys are false idols that are misleading tons of people, when she doesn't even have the basic level of understanding of what this movement, first of all, what this movement is actually about, which content creators are actually part of the movement and which ones aren't, or what any of the subcategories of this content actually are, or which ones are considered subcategories and which ones are considered separate categories. She knows nothing about any of this. She's just opening her big mouth to talk about it, and she has some very strong feelings and opinions about it that she's going to say. Which, we get it, Brett. You feel the need to control what men say, think, and do. But no real man is going to listen to a woman tell him what to do. So, no, Brett, I'm not going to take your advice. Because, first of all, you don't know what you're talking about. And second of all, I'm not going to take dating advice from a woman. Because women have a track record of giving the worst dating advice known to humans. Because women don't even know what they want. You can literally ask a woman what she wants and give her what she wants, and then she will have changed her mind by the time you have gotten her what she asked for. And then at that point, you should have just known that she was going to change her mind, so you should have brought her what she was going to change her mind to, because you're supposed to be a mind reader like that, because that's how women think these days for some reason. And it just grinds my gears how she says no man. And she did say idolizing, but she basically meant listening to those guys. Which is just ridiculous, because who gave her the authority on this concept? Who gave her the ability to decide for all men what they should and shouldn't listen to? Where is her expertise on how to date women? How many women has she slept with? How many women has she gone on a date with? Does she know anything about what she is talking about? Or has she literally got her head in the clouds? Because I think you need to come back down here to earth, Brett.
The whole story is just a mess, but the lesson here is actually quite simple. Number one, do not have sex with somebody that you are not committed to and who you would not be willing to have a child with. Again, literally very simple. They should have used protection, but that point is moot now because a life has been created. Who cares how it happened? A baby exists. So number two, the other lesson here is that you now have a child to protect. And only one party in this relationship is allegedly trying to do that. While this alpha, take responsibility bro, is apparently being a weak, embarrassing deadbeat. So do better.
Just absolutely absurd. We don't know if it's his child. We don't know if she's actually pregnant. And she's trying to claim as if only the woman here is trying to protect the child, when it is very clear and obvious to anyone who's paying attention that the woman is using this child as a pawn in her scheme to likely get money from this man. Just because you are so ignorant or willfully blind to this, Brett, does not mean the rest of us have to be. This is why we all watch this content that you tell us not to watch, is so that we can see this stuff coming from a mile away, and this is why she fooled you, Brett. This is why you couldn't see her playing this game, because you don't even know the game that she's playing. Just ridiculous. I really like Brett Cooper. She's one of the few host of the Daily Wire that I can still watch without getting too annoyed. But I saw her video on this and it just made my brain hurt. I had to make a video on this. Oh, I hope it didn't get too long by now. I haven't checked the time on the recording yet. We'll see. Yeah, guys, that's it for today. To help fight this insanity and help bring sanity to this world, make sure that you leave a like on this video, you leave a comment, and don't forget to follow me on Rumble and subscribe.